Welcome to Soul-Led Creative Women, the podcast for heart-centered creative women who are ready to reclaim their spark and live with deeper meaning, authenticity, and soul. This episode is all about honouring creative seasons. It invites you to consider that untethered feeling when you're not quite sure what's next and you notice a shift in energy, almost like a detachment from what was lighting you up, a slowing down creatively or just in life. This episode explores that quiet in-between space. You'll discover why creative pauses are part of the process, how your personal and creative growth are deeply connected, and why trusting the slower seasons can reveal more than constant striving ever could. I think there are moments in everyone's journey where things feel a little bit uncertain. You know, the clarity you once carried has become a bit foggy. And, maybe even the fire that once fueled your creativity has dimmed. You question your direction, your desires, even who you are now and your identity. But what if you're simply shifting? What if you're exactly where you need to be, even when things feel a little slower, a little uncertain? What if you're simply in between seasons? I think sometimes we're in a rush to find that clarity and, that inspiration again. But in nature, there are no hard lines between autumn and winter, spring and summer. The transition is gradual. Flowers don't bloom all at once. The shift in seasons happens in really small, quiet ways so that we barely notice each day. And yet one season exists in contrast to the others. In life, often we expect to move from, triumph to triumph, inspiration to inspiration, creative breakthrough to creative breakthrough, without any pauses or any resistance. We've been conditioned to believe that progress should be linear and that if we're not moving forward, then something must be wrong. And I think we can carry around a really desperate energy around that, where we're looking for the next thing all the time. But the truth is, the space in between is where some of the most sacred work can happen. This in-between space is tender and it's undefined. It isn't a problem that necessarily needs to be fixed. I think we can look at it as a sacred threshold, a space for gestation, reflection, stillness. It's the place where deep inner work happens, whether we realize it or not. It's in this space that we can root down and ground ourselves fully before we rise again. It's here that our soul whispers truths to us that we may have been too busy to hear. And it's here that we can reconnect with the deeper rhythms of our creative and spiritual life. In the broader sense of life, this might look like feeling directionless, even when nothing external has actually changed. It might look like craving solitude, but not knowing why. It could look like letting go of old identities, roles or goals that don't seem to fit anymore, just all of a sudden out of the blue. It might look like being more emotional or sensitive without a real clear cause or reason. It might look like questioning the purpose behind your usual routines or even your ambitions and just getting curious about, whether this is true for you anymore. And creatively, it might look like feeling uninspired or disconnected from your usual artistic flow. It might look like being unable to finish projects that you once felt passionate about, or are still passionate about, but just don't have the energy for right now. It might look like feeling overwhelmed by too many ideas, or maybe sometimes not enough ideas. It could be feeling a need to reevaluate why you create what you create and who you're creating it for. And it could also look like, letting go of expectations around creative productivity or perfection. The beautiful truth is, these seasons, the life seasons and the creative seasons often mirror each other. When you're growing personally, your creativity will naturally shift, expand, or pause to catch up. And when you're in a creative lull, it may be your soul's way of inviting deeper personal inquiry. I believe that one always informs the other. They dance together in a spiral, not a straight line. They are not separate from each other. To honor your cycles is to honor your humanity. To tend to your emotional landscape is to nourish your creative one. And this duality isn't a tension to solve. I think it's a rhythm to soften into. And I think really they both exist to support each other. So if you're in a quieter season, know that this space has a purpose. It's calling you to slow down and to listen, to ground into your body, to soften into your breath, to remember your wholeness, even without the external clarity or validation. I think this is really a time to gently unplug from the outside noise and tune back inwards. It's an invitation to honor what is rising within you, even if you can't really name it yet. And I think this is a season of becoming. And so I invite you to ask yourself, instead of pushing through, can you honor this time? Can you let it be what it is without trying to label it or rush it? Can you give yourself permission to rest, to be unproductive, and to wander without answers? The soul doesn't work on deadlines. And creativity definitely doesn't thrive in pressure. And your worth was never tied to how much you produce. This in-between seasons is a creative cocoon, I think, and one that holds really unseen shifts, energetic upgrades, and emotional integration. It's where your roots really strengthen below the surface so that when the time comes, you can rise with more stability, purpose, and grace. Your path hasn't ended when you're experiencing these lulls, and your creativity hasn't disappeared. Your soul hasn't gone quiet. You're just preparing for the next phase, like a seed underground. Something beautiful is happening where no one can really see it. And I think it takes real courage to trust this process, to allow what feels like stillness to be enough, but to trust something is stirring, and when it's time, you'll know, and it's not the end. I used to get uncomfortable and fidgety in these like lull periods myself, but more and more I'm learning to trust the timing of my path, and I really understand more than ever that breakthroughs don't come from pushing harder always and doing more. They come from honoring these pauses and quiet shifts in energy. And at times, I am called away from finishing one creative project so that I can focus on another. Business creativity and art creativity is a big balancing act for me. And it can feel frustrating sometimes, right? It can feel like you're not doing enough, or, you've lost touch with something that is really important to you. But it can also be, times when I'm called to rest more and invite more stillness and to really kind of lean inwards and quiet the noise. And for me, I know that these quiet sort of patches, they often precede the most powerful transformations. And that's both in life and also creatively. I don't think that my creative journey and my kind of artistic breakthroughs, I don't think that they actually come from me learning more skills necessarily, or like painting more. That's definitely an element to it. But I think that my biggest breakthroughs have come from when I've actually stopped painting and just sort of allowed everything to marinate on a soul level. And then when you sort of start painting again, you've kind of up leveled. And it comes from this place that's quite magic and that's hard to explain. And so, if this is where you find yourself right now, in a quieter season, an in between season, I just want to remind you that there is nothing wrong with you. You are not behind. You are not failing. You're just in the in between. And this is where magic brews. This is where your next chapter is coming to life and writing itself, and where your soul is helping you to figure it all out. So, as we finish this episode, I invite you to do a bit of soul reflection. I invite you to have a think about what would shift if you allowed this in between season to be sacred rather than something to rush through. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Take care. Hey, Sam here. Thanks so much for listening to the end. If you'd like to keep the conversation going, I would absolutely love to hear from you. Join my free soul-led creative community and gain access to free guides and resources, plus exclusive events and workshops, all from within the members area. This is your chance to connect with me and other like-minded souls. Please head to samhorton.co/community. Take care.